Have you ever competed at a team event and then wondered why your team didn't compete well enough and hoped that you could do better? Well, in ancient times, the Greeks developed this cohesive team, and it was called hoplite phalanx, and they were so well trained that they worked almost as a well-oiled machine rather than just humans. So to do this, I talked to Dr. White here at LSUS. I also took a history class, and then I also did research online for the topic. And I found that this phalanx was able to work in almost perfect synchronization. So the way they did this, they had the right equipment, and they also had a strategy behind it, right? So what did these people wear for battle? So their equipment was called a panoply, and it consisted of tunic, breastplates, shield, spears, swords, helmet, and greaves. So the hoplon was the key piece to this formation, and it was a shield, hence the name hoplite. The shield was made out of wood, and it was layered with bronze, and later on it became solely bronze. But it was big enough, it was a round shield, and it was big enough to protect the soldier who held it, and then the right side of the soldier to that soldier's left. So it made a wall of shields. Then they had the dory or the spear, which was 8 feet long. It had an iron tip and a bronze spike at the end. And we'll talk about why the spike was on the end later on. Then this had the scyphos, which was the sword, and it was only 2 feet long, and it was a last resort weapon, and it was held on the left side of the soldier, because that's where the shield was held. Then they had the armor, which was the greaves, protected the legs, the breastplate protected the chest, and then the helmet protected the head, of course, and the eyes. So having this equipment made them effective, but that doesn't win battles. So what did they do? So Philip II of Macedonia, what he decided to do is he made being a soldier a profession. And that meant that every soldier had to practice every single day for an extensive amount of time with their unit, what they were going to do and how to fight together. So that was one of the biggest things that they could do, because then everybody would fight together, right? But then came the organization. So what would the phalanx actually do? They lined up rows upon rows upon rows of soldiers, 8 ranks deep. The general of the formation was usually the best soldier, and he was in the most open position ever to the far right. They didn't have long lives, but he was able to hold the phalanx together in battle, and that was his only job. So the idea behind phalanx is we move as a unit, and we go everywhere as a unit, and we just demolish people, essentially. So what they would do is they would move slowly but consistently across the field, and when they came upon contact enemies, usually the front rows, their spears would just shatter. So that's where the helmet came into protection. It protected them from splinters, from hits from the enemies and everything. So everything that was done by the phalanx was actually by the second and third row and people behind them with their long spears just attacking. And they would push the front row forward and forward and forward. What did the back row do? They would use the spike of the spear and stab anybody who survived this onslaught. But one of the things about this phalanx was that it only worked on a flat surface. It wasn't very movable, so it only worked on a flat surface. So what happened when the enemies realized, oh wait, there's a phalanx coming? What happened is, the phalanx, if they saw that there was a slope somewhere and the enemies took that position, they would usually resort to burning crops, houses, destroying their fields, so that the enemy would come down from the slope and fight them. It kind of became, at this period of time, it kind of became a gentleman's agreement to fight in a flat surface so that they wouldn't terrorize the people and have more losses than they could. So in conclusion, the phalanx was so effective because, 1, their equipment, but then 2, their strategy was unbeatable almost. Alexander the Great conquered the whole known world back in the day using this formation. And he went from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. This formation was so effective that it allowed for victories with minimal, if any, losses. You're welcome. Thank you.